Hello everyone and welcome back to Database Administration. Today we will talk about functional requirements documents. Functional requirements document is basically a contract between you as a developer and the end user. To quote from the Maryland Department of IT functions, the functional requirements document is a formal statement of an application's functional requirements. It serves the same purpose as a contract. The developers agree to provide the capabilities specified. The clients agree to find the product satisfactory if it provides the capabilities specified in the FRD. Notice it says nothing about selling the product or anything like this. This is not a sales pitch. This is a statement of what it does. You notice that what here I have highlighted, quality is meeting requirements. Now, a lot of times a new programmer will throw in a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't asked for, but they figure they needed. A lot of it turns out to be wasted effort. So if you agree in the functional requirements on what the application has to do, then you can use it in design as a guide for that. You can use it to evaluate and test to see if it meets the requirements, and you can see if the project was successful. Now, I have been sitting in on projects that didn't have it, functional requirements more often than ones that did, quite frankly. And I remember a couple of times of people getting into an argument. I told you I wanted to do it this way. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. If you have a written set of functional requirements, you do not have that problem. Okay, so what is a functional requirement? Okay, first of all, it's got to provide something that's a benefit to the organization. Now, the example I will use through this is what I have experience in is design in military personnel type databases. So, and it describes the capability that the application has in business terms. I will not say that the application will take somebody's information and upload it and store it into a table. I will say that it records information for new members checking in. Now, a quick glance back up here. Any reference to the use of a specific technology is entirely appropriate in a functional requirements document. I've had a lot of cases where people say, I need an access database that. No. You need a application that does something. If it happens to be an application, access database, well, that's the way it turned out. Okay, so a couple other things does not describe how the application provides that capability. This is the functional requirements. This is the technical requirements document. It also doesn't describe things as where you're going to host it, how is it going to be hosted, the computer hardware you need, etc., and so on. Okay, notice it's stated in unambiguous words. You have to specifically say what it's going to do such as I will record a person's first name, last name, and middle initial, their date of birth, etc., and so on. It also has to be something that's verifiable. If you put in your functional requirements that you will have an application that will revolutionize the tracking of stamps, well, people may argue with you about exactly what that means. Okay, a comment here is you notice in this functional requirements document from MIT, from Maryland Department of IT is there's a number of things in italics. Italics are instructions to you. They should not be in the final document. When I used this last term, I got some people that they kept that in there and they only added a sentence or two, and it was very hard to see which ones they added. Anything with italics has to come out. Okay, on the project description, you provide maybe a 1 or 2 sentence description of the project. Background, why are you doing this? The reason I decided that we needed a admin tracking database is because I've been in many military units and there's always some information they're tracking about people at the unit level. Okay, purpose, basically why are you doing the project? Assumptions and constraints. Okay, you can make all sorts of assumptions. Assumptions should be reasonable and it should be necessary. And I'll provide a little bit of that when I show you my functional requirements document. Okay, constraint is something that you can do or that you have to do or cannot do. For example, If you have to have something particularly that deals with Privacy Act, it must conform to government regulations. Okay, constraints and preferences are different. If you have a deadline that is an internal deadline, that if you slip a couple of days, that's a preference. If you have something like you have 90 days to respond by law, that is a constraint. Okay, 1.1.4 I've got in red. That's because you don't have to worry about it unless you feel like putting it in there. Same with 1.2. 1.3 document references, don't worry about that. Okay, paragraph 2, and this is the key paragraph, functional requirements. The first paragraph is 2.1, data requirements. The reason I have that in red is you reply for that in the terms of an entity relationship diagram, which you haven't had yet. When you do that, that will take care of this requirement. Functional process requirements, you need to spend a little time on there and try to say in specific terms as possible what it is supposed to do. Okay, operational requirements, the things that are not functional requirements, but there are wickets it still has to meet. For example, security. In this case, in my case, I have a personnel database, so it has a lot of personal information, so it has to meet the Privacy Act of 1974, among other things. Don't worry about audit trail and data currency. Yes, those could be a discussion, but we're limiting ours to just the basics. Okay, reliability. What happens if your system goes down? How long can it go down? Okay, recoverability is how long does it take you to get your system? How long do you need it to take your system to get back online if it goes down? Okay, system availability. Do you have something that's got to be available 24/7? Do you got to have something that only has to be available during normal business hours? Okay, fault tolerance and performance. Don't worry about it. You have to worry about an actual situation. You don't have to worry about this. Capacity, how big is your application? How many people are going to use it? And data retention, how long are you going to retain data? People have a tendency to hold on to data forever. That's not a good strategy these days. Okay, paragraphs 4 and 5 are in red because you do not have to do them. Okay, now I will give you an example of how to apply this functional requirements to your project. Okay, here we go. This is how I applied it to my fictional project of a database application for military administration. Okay, you notice there's no italics in here. I got rid of everything with italics. That's an instruction to you that has no business in the final document. Okay, project description, make a database application for military administration, one-liner. This application simplifies administration for military units. If I want to wax eloquent, I could say how many military units I was in. Everybody was doing things by paper because I started in 1979, but I decided to spare you that. Okay, the purpose. I give a couple of specifics here. Rotation of personnel. People are rotating in and out of military units all the time, usually on a time period of about 2 to 3 years. And they all have annual evaluation cycles, which don't seem to be important until you get about E8 or E9 on the enlisted side, or O5 or O6 on the officer side. Okay, example of assumptions constraints. Okay, the first one is Oracle Transparent Data Encryption will be available. Okay, I was an Oracle DBA, I know that. Basically, this is something that encrypts your data at rest. And we're hoping to use this in a Apex, and we're hoping for the sake of argument to use this in the Oracle Cloud Apex capability, and they should have transparent data encryption. Okay, so it's reasonable that it needs to be done, and it is required, specifically in DoD, it is required to encrypt your data at rest. Okay, same argument with HTTPS, that not only do you have to encrypt your data at rest, you have to encrypt it in transit. We will need it for the same sensitive personnel data, and we're assuming that it will be available. Now, what happens if either of these turn out not to be the case? We have to go back and we have to refigure the whole project. That's when you usually go and order out for pizza, because it's going to be a long night. Okay, constraints, some things that have to be done. Since we have personal information there, it must be protected per the Privacy Act of 1974. Since this is a Department of Defense, it may require STIG compliance. STIG is the Standard Technical Implementation Guide. This is their guide for how to secure applications of various types. There's other guides to the CIS, but this is the one that's applicable to the Department of Defense. Each of the services may have specific regulations that you may have to comply with. So these are the constraints we're dealing with. Okay, functional requirements, the data recovery. I said ERD diagram to be published. That's all you need to say. Okay, I did mine as a table because I like tables. I have the task, I have who the primary user is, and I have some comments. Okay, and I said service member, what I would probably do in actuality is I'd roll this out for one service at a time. I would start with the Army because I'm more familiar with them. Okay, you need to track their end of active service because they're done. They need to go home, especially if they're over in Germany. It'd be nice to drop them off at home before you get them out of the Army. Attendance at required training in any big organization, particularly the military. There's a list of training topics that you have to cover each year, whether you want to or not. They're usually safety, equal opportunity, and a couple of others. We need to track their contact information, and we also need to track family information. There's usually some sort of a family outreach program in each of the services. We call it a family support group in the Army. It's called something else. You have correspondence that has to go out for that. And also, when they had so many hurricanes in one year, they found out that you need to know where the family members are because you need to know what happened to them in case of an emergency. Okay, prospective gains and loss. If everybody has a lifetime in there or 3 years, you got 1/3 of your unit. It will rotate out each year. You need to know who it is. Like if it's the commanding officer, you kind of need to know have some heads up of that because a lot of things have got to happen. Okay, operational requirements from security. This is the main thing we have is we have personal information that has to be secured. Okay, reliability. In most cases, you do not have to have real-time reliability for a personnel database. Usually, if it comes up sometime during the day, you can put in what you need to do. Now, as a preference, I said let's have a target reliability of 90%. Mainly because I've seen that it's reasonable to expect that the database will be up 90%. Okay, recoverability. I'm saying that it needs to be down for less than a day when it's down, and needs to get back up within about another day. That's just my estimate. We might refine that as we continue to refine this requirements document. Okay, system availability, admin types work during normal duty hours, so we don't have to have this 24/7. Okay, capacity based on the units, the military units I've been in, the fact that some of them, they don't consolidate at unit level, they consolidate their admin at the echelons above. We're talking about we need to handle about 1,000 soldiers, sailors, or Marines, or airmen. Okay, data retention, usually the units I've been in, the local data records only have to be there while they rotate. There are permanent big databases in the sky that DoD uses for permanent records. Okay, so what we covered the Maryland's Department of IT Awesome Function Requirements document. We also covered one example of how to adapt this to a potential Apex project. I hope this answers questions. Thank you.